ESO is getting an update soon, and there's a lot of positive feedback on this update. I have not had a look yet at this update, so I'm going to do this with you guys together. And yeah, let's find out all about the Endless Archive.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. HTM here with some news for the Elder Scrolls Online, talking about Update 40 and the new Endless Archive dungeon. We've got tons of new information today from the ESO team and a special live stream event over on Twitch, and I'm going to break down everything for you in this video,
nice.
So let's jump right into it. Now, starting with Update 40, which is a base game patch coming to ESO, which will also include the Endless Archive dungeon, by the way. We'll talk about that more in just a minute, but Update 40 is set to release on October 30th for PC and November 14th for consoles. Now, Update 40 is actually going to include some nice quality of life upgrades to improve the overall game. The first of which we'll talk about is called Grandmaster Crafting Stations. This new feature will take your pre-existing attunable stations, which you may have any of the 70 plus current craftable sets in ESO, and it will actually consume those individual stations to upgrade this Grandmaster Station, collecting them all in one place, letting you craft any craftable set. Now
this is actually good. I have like one friend that has like this big house in ESO, and he has every single set, and he has a clothing station for every single set in one side of his home, then the blacksmithing one on this side. Like half of his home is occupied by those stations, just so he can craft all sets. Like, this is a very good update. This was needed. And you know what other update they need to finally make is they need to rework the way Major Brutality and Sorcery work, or just remove it from the game, or give at least every single class this one. Because right now it's so annoying if you're playing a Templar, like Magicka Templar for example, or if you're playing a Necromancer, to get Major Brutality or Sorcery. Like, you constantly need to consume those potions, and they become mandatory, right? Like, you can't use other potions, and a lot of other cool potions in ESO that you can't use, like the Tri-Stat potion for example, because if you're doing endgame content, you're almost required to use the Major Sorcery or Brutality potion, and this is also quite annoying. I think either they need to remove it, add it as a base to every single class, it is always there, or at least give more skills this as an extra feature. Like, hey, if you have, let's say for example Necromancer, if you summon a skeleton, like Skeleton Archer or Mage, they also give you Major Sorcery, just like the Netch with freaking Warden, right? Or on the Templar, if you put down your Rune Focus, you have Major Sorcery or in Brutality too. Like, there are a lot of skills where I see they could add this, because we have so much extra stuff. Like, ESO has one issue, and with the crafting tool like shown here, we have so much extra stuff where you need this extra and this extra, where you can put this all in one, like be it in a crafting station or be it in like an active skill on some classes, then you don't need freaking stupid potions. Like, yeah, we need to like put more stuff together. Or with those assistants, for example, from the shop. Like, why is there not a bigger assistant? So I got, like, for example, yesterday, the Rack Picker that can let me decon stuff, right? Why don't we have an assistant that has everything, but maybe costs triple the price or something? Yeah, it's kind of weird. We have so much extra stuff.
There are going to be Grandmaster Stations for each of the different crafting disciplines in ESO. So woodworking, blacksmithing, clothing, jewelry crafting. But again, Grandmaster Crafting Stations can consume and contain all previous attunable crafting stations, basically reducing your potential crafting stations from 300 plus down to just 4
Does this get
stations.
bigger too as you improve
I don't think
this?
I can express how huge of a change this is for crafters and for guild halls, so this one is definitely much appreciated. And what's really cool too is that the Grandmaster Stations are going to upgrade over time, and the look will actually change as these consume more
so they
and
do
more
have tier
stations.
So they do have sort of tier levels, right? Like, for example, this one. Like, now we have this sort of table here with those tools, right? And maybe if you upgrade it, you get this thingy here. What is this? Some sort of looks like a wheel. You get this wheel, then you get this small bin or what this is, and then later on you get like another table. And if you have like, let's say 8 or so, then you get this thingy here with a string. That's actually pretty cool, I think. So let me guess, each four things you add to it is like one upgrade or something until you have them all, maybe.
Until you've eventually collected all 77,
it looks
I think
nice
there
too.
are,
I like the model.
which is a nice bonus. Now that is not the only crafting change that was discussed today. Jewelry crafting is also going to be completely redone in Update 40
In
to
which
make
way?
it less time-consuming and less expensive to craft and upgrade jewelry. The big reason for this is that grains are now going to be completely removed from the game. Don't worry though, if you have existing grains, when Update 40 hits, those are actually going to be converted into plating. And the nice thing is that all of this will be done automatically when you first log into ESO after Update 40 drops. So it's not something you have to worry about converting.
Wait, the grains will become platings. But don't you need like 10 or how much was it to get like one plating? What is if you have, let's say, only 8 of those? Are you getting like 8 platings, or are those 8 not going to be converted because you don't have 10 or something? Or how much was it? I even forgot, like I haven't crafted in ages. I'm not sure what it is these days to like golden and jewelry piece, but what I usually do is I go to my crafting table somewhere, either at my house or I go to the city, and I just refine those dust, those grain thingies, right? And I get like 1 or 2 platings and stuff sometimes. Sometimes I get like more. Once I have enough, I upgrade maybe some blue to purple pieces or something, right? And if I have like a favorite set, I just golden it completely to min-max, right? But what if I don't have so much grain because I used up a lot now because I upgraded so much? Like, how will they be converted? Yo, I have to like look deeper into this and see like how they actually plan on doing this with the craft. But that's interesting. But this will affect the market prices a lot, right? So they make it easier to golden now jewelry or what? Yo, I think people are not gonna buy for some type golden jewelry now from the stores because they know it's gonna be way easier. And now the prices are insane.
Converting yourself, but it should make things a lot easier for those jewelry crafters.
It'll be interesting
out
for the
there.
market, for sure.
And another brand new feature coming to ESO is a new group finder tool. This is not a dungeon finder update. It's not even a trials finder.
What is a group finder?
This is going to be for all types of group content. In this tool, you can basically set your type. So that could be dungeon, arena, trial,
Wow.
endless archive.
This
now,
is like in
PvP,
WoW, right?
Zones or custom. And then you can set parameters like the
This was necessary, guys. Like, I often see people spam in zone chat, even if I go to Zero Deal looking for group and stuff, right? Like, people are looking for groups for PvP, for example, so they can zerk around a Zero Deal, right? And instead of using now zone chat with LFG, now they can just click on this and it's not annoying for us players. We don't have to constantly see how people are spamming in Zero Deal LFG and stuff, right? That's actually cool. It's definitely making things a lot easier. And if you look at here like custom, right? You know what you can do now with the group finder, and this is good for if you are leveling alts, right? You can now say, looking for group spell scar or something, right? Like you go on custom and then someone writes LFG spell scar, and now you have like a small group or one friend to level with in spell scar. And you no longer need to ask in zone chat or whisper players on the street, hey, wanna grind a character with me at spell scar in Craglon? No, now you can do it there. Same when it comes like arenas here, like BGs and stuff, right? Like this makes things a lot easier, I think. That's great.
number of players, the amount of tanks, healers, and DPS that you need, your play style. You can set a custom name and description, and a lot more.
Can you also say minimum
Players
CP
can
here or
find your
something?
activity
Oh.
and sign up for it. So no more shouting in Craglorn or Cyrodiil. Just find.
Like in WoW we have something with minimum item level, right? Do we have something here, for example, with also like CP? Well, that would be interesting. Can I say, hey, you can only come in this group if you're CP 1600 or something? That would be interesting though if you can add this, right?
Or build the group that you want. I think this is another amazing feature for ESO, and it's going to make things so much more convenient for group
sure.
content, and
I agree.
especially on console where you have less access to helpful tools like this without modding. But that's all as far as what was revealed today for the base game update and quality of life. I'm sure there will be more in this update, it just wasn't shown off today. So I will be going over
It's
that
the
in more
first-
detail
yeah,
on Monday, as that's when this update hits the public test server, and we'll be able to see all the patch notes.
I hope
so
they give
stay
everyone
tuned
major
for that.
sorcery
But let's
finally.
jump into the Endless
Hate
Archive
those bots.
next. So today was our first chance to see the Endless Archive in action, and I think what we saw looked like a blast to play. Very quickly, what this is, it is a new trial or a dungeon, for lack of a better term, that can be played solo or with one companion or with one other player. So a maximum of 2 characters in the instance. Now, the Endless Archive is also literally endless, just like the name says, and it consists of different rounds of random spawning enemies. Enemies can include any monster type currently in the game, as well as over 60 bosses, again, chosen from existing ESO content.
So it's totally
so
random.
You'll see some familiar bosses from dungeons, from trials, maybe even story quests, but obviously with some altered mechanics to fit the space. You do have lives that you can lose, apparently 3 lives in total. So once you lose those 3 lives, you're going to be out and you must start over at the beginning. The main reward for completing the Endless Archive is class sets, a brand new addition to ESO. There is 1 class set for each.
Wait, isn't this like, what was this place called again in Final Fantasy XIV? There's also one where you go up a stage, right? And if you die a certain number of times, like it's over for you, right? What is this called again? I think they took this from Final Fantasy XIV because there is such thing too, where you have like a certain amount of lives or something, you can die, right? And then you like go back to the bottom. And you get like crazy rewards if you actually manage to survive and go to a very high stage.
Each class, so 7 of those in total. We'll talk more about those in just a minute. But maybe the biggest surprise of all with Endless Archive is that it is completely free content.
Halls of the Dead.
This is not paid DLC, it's not an
I remember now. I think it's called Halls of the Dead in Final Fantasy XIV. Yeah, it was inspired by that. I'm sure about it.
Expansion, just part of the base game itself, so it's going to be accessible to everyone, which is great. Now, we did get to see a live demo of Endless Archive in action, and I have to say it looked pretty great. The arenas themselves were fairly tight and compact with a little bit of walking and moving around, but not a ton. So much more similar to Maelstrom Arena than Battlestrand Arena, if you're familiar with both of those, which I actually prefer Maelstrom Arena, so I was happy to see this. We saw how enemies spawn in at random, but not completely random. Basically, you'll get a random set of enemies. So you might have a set of Daedra enemies the poison stage the most in followed by a set Arena. Of goblins, for example. Now, the way that rounds work in Endless Arena is very specific. So each basic round is called a stage, which you're already seeing here in the gameplay. 3 stages make up a cycle, which is then topped off by a boss encounter, which again is going to be one of those 60 random ESO bosses. And after 5 of those cycles get completed, you're then going to challenge the Endless Archive Big Boss, which marks the completion of 1 arc. This is a much tougher encounter that will give you one of those class set pieces as a reward. Once you've completed that first arc, the process basically starts over. So 3 stages, then you do your cycle boss, do that 5 times, so 5 cycles, and then you complete another arc for another set piece. That's how the loop works. Of course, each stage and especially each arc.
Wait, what does it do? I will quickly read this. So we're getting, weapon and spell damage. Don't tell me there's a perfected version or something. I hope it's not like that. I hope I can do the easy one, just upgrade it. Okay, we got like weapon spell damage, critical chance, weapon spell. What does the 5 one do here? So that's a light one, right, for like Magicka. When you deal damage with a Dawn's Wrath ability, you gain a stack of sunlight for 10 seconds, once per attack. You can have 50 stack and gain 12 Magicka. Okay, that's very good for sustain. When it max stacks, your Dawn Wrath abilities deal 25% bonus damage. That's a lot. I would have thought they would write 15% or something on your 10%. 25, that's quite a lot. And a Wrath for Nova is cast on the enemy, but you cannot refresh sunlight. Wait a moment. So we cannot refresh it, and it lasts for, it's for 10 seconds. So you can kind of like bomb players with that, right? I think this is good in PvP. You can build this up, wait out your ultimate, right? Like you build this up. And then you just burst them with your ultimate. But what happens here? When sunlight expires at max stacks, you lose 50% of your current magic. So you have to be smart. You actually need to also make sure your potions are not on cooldown. But here again, this is something I actually hate. And this is why I'm saying we need to get rid of major sorcery or brutality. Now, because I'm thinking about a generic PvP build, like setup. Like, not everyone runs like entropy, right? On the Templar, on the Magicka Templar, right? So how do you actually get major sorcery with this buff at the same time? Because if this is over, you lose 50% of your current max Magicka, right? So the issue here is you will not be able to use a tripod if you want like a super a bombing burst, right? Because you would need to have some emergency potion if your resources are low, right? But this is current magicka. It means if you barely have any magicka, it's not gonna take much away, right? Let's say you have only 20% of your magicka, then you fall on 10%, you just recover, right? But still, like, this is why I'm saying, like, some classes or class specs on STEM Templar, I think you have like one skill that you always use anyway that gives you major brutality, but certain class specs are suffering a lot in also PvP. And think about like Magicka Templar now and Necromancer, because they don't have access to major sorcery, right? So you can only use one type of potion if you want to be min-maxing, right? But other classes like Warden, you always have your Netch. You have on even like Sap Essence. If you like melee, for example, Magicka Nightblade, you use Sap Essence anyway, and you constantly have major sorcery up. Yo, I wonder if they're ever gonna like buff certain classes. There needs to be class balancing again. I've heard this also from like some friends that have been always playing, they never really stopped, that there's some classes that are crazy underperforming in PvP right now. And Stem Necro is also not what it used to, apparently. I like one friend, he really loves Stem Necro, and he says it's garbage in comparison to others. Like Arcanist is so much more OP, you want to play maybe a Magicka DK now, you don't want to be Stem Crow anymore and stuff. Or Magicka Nightblade is still broken.
The difficulty of the encounters does increase. During the live demo, we saw the biggest increase in difficulty seemed to happen after Arc 1 was completed, so moving into Arc 2. Enemies started to hit harder and also had significantly more health. We also got to see a random boss encounter happen during Arc 2 called the Marauder. This is a very challenging boss, basically equivalent to the Arc boss, but the Marauder spawns at random, so there is some potential for huge chaos here, though
so
that only
pretty much
happens
screwed
at
if
Arc
he spawns,
2
right?
and higher. There are also random encounters and quests that pop up throughout. Sometimes these show up as portals where you may need to challenge another side boss or start a quest like collecting tome pages, or you could even chase down like a treasure scamp that we saw. And I'm sure there's many other options that we didn't see, which are gonna make things a lot more interesting. I didn't even talk about power-ups yet, which are a huge part of Endless Archive, and one of the coolest things that we saw.
Wait, it's like VMA,
so
where you
there
pick
are
something
two types
up and you
of
get
buffs
a buff.
you can get here. The first one is called a Verse, and it's a buff just for the upcoming stage, and these will either increase your damage, increase your defense.
But is it like that with VMA where you lose score if you pick up this buff? Because in VMA, if you pick up a buff, your score gets reduced a little bit. Like you get a higher score if you complete it without buffs. How is it here?
Stage, and these will either increase your damage, increase your defense, or give you some utility like extra gold, just again for that stage. At the start of each stage, you're going to be given the choice
depending
from
on your build,
two
some
of
are
these
better
verses,
and some are
then that
worse.
verse is going to go away at the end of the stage, but you get to pick a new one basically. And these buffs are actually extremely powerful. For example, we saw one that increases the damage of your class-based skills by 50%, 50%. But again, these are only with you for one stage at a time, and then they get replaced. Then there's visions, which are buffs that stay with you through the entire Endless Archive. So these are long-term buffs. And these are earned by defeating the boss at the end of each cycle. Wow. So generally, the visions are going to be much less powerful, like let's say 5% bonus dot damage. But again, the thing about visions is that these stay with you your entire playthrough, and they can also stack. So the longer you stay alive in the Endless Archive, the more powerful your character becomes.
You know, this is such an obvious choice for me. If I had to pick between those two, like, why am I doing it? I just want to farm the freaking set, right? Or get this achievement so I complete it once. Of course, I would take Persistent Pain because I get damage over times effects increased by 5% per stage. The other one just gives me like, what, 25% more gold per clear? Of course, Persistent Pain.
Helping you advance to later arcs.
Such an easy choice.
So I really did like this because it's almost like a part of your build or an addition to your build that you're progressing and unlocking over time, which was really cool. I don't want the video to go on too long. This is really just a taste of what's to come, but a few more quick things that you might be wondering about. Number one is there's no way to change the difficulty for Endless Archive.
I remember when his monster set was still good.
Veteran version to choose. The difficulty doesn't even change based on how you queue in, so solo or with another player or companion. It's all the same difficulty. Now, there will be different leaderboards, however, so one leaderboard for solo and one for duo or with a companion. You can also start solo and add another player or companion.
Wait a second, if I do the solo one, do I get the same rewards than if I do it with the group? Because I imagine that the solo one is probably a bit easier even, right? Huh. But if it's solo, that means if I'm like up at late night and I want to like farm some set, I don't have to wait for others. I can immediately get into the grind. Okay, that's cool actually. That's what I used to do in VMA. So when I was like going for VMA, and I was like trying to like farm stuff there, right? And there were also like some sets, like there was like this one set I actually was using on a Maxog for some time. It was quite OP. I forgot the name, but I was like farming stuff from there as well, and of course the weapons. And I remember when I was there, it would often be at night, and if this would have not been solo content, I would have an issue doing like multiple runs there at night. These people are sleeping.
Companion later if you want, and obviously that's going to change which leaderboard you end up on. Now regarding leaderboards as well, Endless Archive is not a timed activity, so completing rounds faster is going to have no impact on your score or leaderboard progression at all. Endless Archive is actually all about survival, so focusing on damage, which has really been the meta in most other arena content, for ESO might actually not be the best idea. The demo we were shown, in fact, showcased one DPS and one tank, for example, and that seemed to actually work quite well, especially on the boss rounds. And one other quick note here is that there's no minimum level, so you can actually jump into Endless Archive at any time.
Yeah, but
there was also a
would
currency which was shown off. You're going to earn this throughout each stage. And then it seemed like there were a few vendors where you could buy, boxes with those class set items where you can get a random chance at those. Various other things you can purchase with the currency as well. But overall, super impressed by what the ESO team has been able to come up with here. You can expect to see more guides and info right here on the channel as early as next week when this is going to go live on PTS and we can actually, start testing it ourselves. So make sure you're subscribed for that. But other than that, let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section below. What do you think about the quality of life changes coming in Update 40?
With
and
the
what do you
crafting,
think
very
about
good.
the Endless Archive? Definitely curious to see what you all have to say. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe out there, and I will see you around in the next video.
To be honest, I love also the look of this Endless Archives, because I like in Skyrim I was crazy about like the realm Apocrypha by Hermos Mora. It looks so cool in Skyrim, right? And I'm like, oh wow, now we have this in ESO too. Like I love how ESO brings back like previous Elder Scrolls games and their zones. Like with Morrowind, I was a big fan when it came out. I was like, whoa, Morrowind is back, but with a better quality, like not the old pixelated version we have from the old game, but this is like modernized Morrowind. Like we have good textures, good models, cool mobs and all that. It was very nice. And now I get the same kind of vibes like I had from the freaking Skyrim, right? Like, oh wow, Apocrypha and like Endless Archives. Like this makes me think about Mirak now. Mirak, the Dragonborn that we get to kill, right? Yo, this is cool. And I like how you can actually farm a currency there, then buy those boxes if you have any set piece missing. But unfortunately, I think some of those sets and clearing Endless Archives could become a must-have for the meta. But that's what MMOs often do with like new updates, expansions. They add something that is just so good with the new expansion that it's like almost a must-have to complete this. Like I remember like old school ESO, where like Imperial City came out, Orsinium, right, and all that. Like it was not about, oh, the latest expansions bring the most OP stuff and the meta. Like you could still use like old sets and you are like either meta or almost meta with it, right? But I've noticed in ESO, also with like the new master weapons and stuff they've added over time, for some builds they just have become so important, and it's, I don't know, I kind of like dislike it in a way, because you're like forcing the player to clear a certain content and not play the way they want to play the game in order to like be competitive with others, right? So it's kind of annoying. But at the same time, like if I look now at like Endless Archive and the difficulty, how you can also do the solo with others, it is more about now time to complete your stuff than about being the best player in the world. If you're a really good player, you're gonna get your set super fast because you're gonna just speed run it with with maybe a few friends, and you just gotta like immediately rush through it, right? If you're a bad player, maybe you not even reach the end stage, but you can always at least kill a few bosses, get the currency, and you can complete your set with the boxes, for example. Because there are a lot of casual players that maybe cannot even clear VMA, right? So it would be a pain for them to min-max. But here with this, I think you don't even need to clear the whole thing and you can still somehow complete your set. You just wait for it to reset, or maybe you can somehow reset. I think if you die 3 times, it's gonna automatically reset and you can go again, right? So you kill a couple of bosses, you just farm the currency and a few set pieces, and then you just buy the boxes and you're good to go, right? Or if you're like a PvP player and you don't even do much PvE anyway, so maybe you're not so fast and efficient like a pure PvE player, but you can still get your set for PvP. That's cool. The crafting, I appreciate this because I saw how horrible this is these days with like, if you want to have every single crafting station for your set. Not only is there in each house a maximum amount of things you like, decorations you can put inside your house, there's a cap actually. So you have now more options for actual decoration, because now you can put the crafting table there, upgrade it to have every single set, and it only occupies a space of 1. That means now you can add some benches, flowers and trees that you couldn't before in your main house because you were out of space. That is really, really good. And in my opinion, I think golden jewelry is totally overpriced. It is way too expensive in comparison to golden armor pieces and weapons and stuff. So I think it is really good that now it's easier to upgrade jewelry. It makes the craft itself now worth more going for, and you want to max on your, especially on your main character, of course, jewelry crafting, because now you can farm raw mats and you get faster the mats to actually golden or purple it. This is very good. But yeah, I'm very excited for this update. I will also do a couple of endless archive runs and farm a set. I think the Templar set looks interesting. I do hope though that they get back, like ZeniMax needs to get back to some classes and consider adding some extra that gives major sorcery brutality to some specs. Like if you're on a Magicka Templar and you are, for example, on a Necromancer, like, or you are on a, let's say you are on a Nightblade that is not a melee, right? Like you also, because you have Sap Essence for major sorcery on the melee Nightblade, right? But if you're a ranged Nightblade, you still need to use Entropy or Pots, for example. Or what is if you're on a Magicka DK and you don't want to use the Igneous Weapon thingy for major sorcery? You also need to use pots. And I'm a big fan of tripods. I've always been a big tripod fan because I think tripods are the best. Because if you ever fall low on resources, you just pop one and you back up. And the cool thing is because they also come with the healing. So let's say you have a tough fight and you're like 1vxing in 0 deal, for example. And your health is already at like 50%, your resources are low. You pop a tripod and you back again, basically. Back to the battle. And I would rather have that than use a freaking potion that gives me major brutality again or sorcery. It's so dumb. Yeah, I hope they're gonna buff some classes. Let's see. But yeah, I'm very looking forward to it. And yeah, if you guys are new to this channel, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more content. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give this one a thumbs up. And I will see you guys next time.